this video, I will be painting a couple of cute zebras. To make them even cuter, I will make them very colorful, not just black and white. Since there are a lot of stripes, a lot of details, I'm painting on a half sheet of 300 pound, 600 grams watercolor paper. So the size is 15 by 22 inches, fairly large, but it will give me lots of space to work on all the details. I started by transferring the drawing. I printed out the zebras in black and white, rubbed the back of the printout with charcoal, and transferred the main outlines on paper to give me a good start. And then I added some more details with my pencil. In this case, I need a very accurate drawing. If you watch my videos, you know sometimes I even start without any drawing or with very general outline, but in this case, I will be using masking. So I need to see exactly the areas where I need to apply it. Masking will preserve the white stripes on the zebras, while I create color variation only on the stripes that are black in the reference photo. Or at least that's the plan, and we'll see how it goes. Usually I don't use masking. I prefer to use opaque white to restore whites in my paintings. I think that gives me a lot more freedom and it saves a lot of time. But in this case, I think masking is necessary for two reasons. First of all, there's quite a bit of white on the zebras, and painting with only opaque white might look a little heavy. It might be a little difficult to cover large areas that are dark with opaque white and make it look nice and natural, especially on this larger format. And the second reason is I want to try pouring watercolor instead of applying it with a brush. So there's no way to prevent it from going everywhere when I paint. Saving the white of the paper is not an option here, so certain areas need to be masked. Okay, the masking is on. It only took a couple of hours and I needed a nap after I was done. I checked it. It's not sticky anymore, so the painting is ready for me to start pouring colors. I saw this technique here on YouTube. It looked like fun, so I thought I'd try it. The colors that I'm squeezing into my little plastic bottles are Antwerp blue and lemon yellow. They need to be mixed really well. I do that by shaking them with about half a bottle of water that I added. I also have some permanent orange in this third bottle that I mixed a while ago and never used. It has the nozzle on already. Let's move it to the yellow bottle. I'll start with yellow. Let's pre-wet our paper just a little bit. I'm spraying it from my spray bottle. And as you see, even though I did that, the color has a little bit of trouble floating. Of course, my paper is flat. It's not sloped. And there's not that much water on it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use a soft, dry brush to help it move and to help it go where I want it to go. Let's add the blue. Like I said, this is the first time I'm trying this technique, pouring watercolor. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I'm sure it's succeeding in making a huge mess. Put several layers of wrapping paper under my watercolor paper. It catches the drips. Thank goodness, not really drips, like whole rivers of water. And I'm also glad I used thick paper because it's really getting saturated and I suspect it will take quite a while for it to dry. I got these bottles in the art supply store. They come with different size nozzles, but only one cap to attach them. So I'm using a medium-sized nozzle and I will have to move it from bottle to bottle. I see a distinct orange glow on top of zebra's manes, so let's add some more color there. I thought I used quite a bit of pigment when I was prepping those bottles, but I see now that watercolor goes on fairly transparently. So probably the amount of water I should have used would be about quarter bottle, not half a bottle. Alright, the first layer is dry. It has some nice color transitions, but for my style of painting, I like really saturated colors, and this is way too light. So I'm going to apply a second layer of watercolor, and I'm going to try and stick to the same color. So I'm going to apply orange over orange and blue over blue as much as I can, because as you know, orange and blue are complementary, so if I start mixing them, layering them over each other, they will neutralize and my zebras will be gray instead of colorful. The second layer definitely helped. The colors look a lot more saturated. I'm going to leave them to dry. After the second layer of paint dried, I had the daunting, unpleasant task of removing the masking fluid. I'm using a special silicone pad that masking fluid kind of sticks to, and it really helps to remove it, but it's still a lot of work because of the large format and huge amount of masking that I applied. I'm also checking with my fingers to make sure I haven't missed anything. My masking fluid is white, so it's a little hard to see. And even though I didn't leave the masking fluid for a long time on the painting, it was only a couple of days, maybe at the most, it's pretty hard to get it off the paper. Fortunately, I didn't damage the paper or anything like that, but that was a lot of work. I also used a pretty stiff brush to apply the masking fluid, which I had to throw away, by the way, because it was unusable, all gooped up. But the brush was fairly stiff, and in some places masking went on kind of stripy. And as a result, the white is not, those white areas are not exactly solid white. They have a bit of a texture on them. All right, finally everything is off. The painting looks pretty terrible. It looks very flat. I'm not used to this harsh look that you get after you remove the masking, but let's continue working on it and see what we can do. I'm going to take my flat angled brush and paint the darkest areas on the zebras. The noses, get the eyes a little better defined. I'm squinting when looking at the reference photo to see those darkest areas, so I'm working on the tonal relationships in my painting. I'm painting the details with the same Antwerp blue that I used for pouring. And I'm also working on the overall form. Like I said, the painting looked pretty flat because of masking, so I need to add core shadows, mostly on the necks of the zebras, to make them rounded. The zebras are not flat. Another thing I decided to do is warm up the overall color palette of my zebras. I added some opera pink in a few areas, and let's also intensify the orange on the manes. The background can use a bit more texture, so splattering is a good technique for making the background more interesting. I can make it darker here towards the bottom. That will kind of ground my painting, so it will look more like sunshine on top and more shadowy area on the bottom. And that orange on the manes that I used on the zebras looks a bit isolated. It looks just like two orange stripes. So let's splatter it in a few more places to balance it and distribute it all over the painting. The last step when working on my painting will be to add the opaque white. Initially I thought I can avoid it, but I cannot finish this painting without a little bit of opaque white. I'm using my favorite, Dr. Paige Martin's Pen White ink. I'm going to apply it only on small areas, and these will be on the most prominent part of each zebra's neck to give them even more volume. These will be the lightest areas. I think another reason why masking never looks right for me is that high quality cotton watercolor paper, it's natural fibers, so they're never super white. The paper has a bit of a warm shade, so just leaving the white of the paper always seems not white enough for me, not enough contrast. Let's touch up the ears. I can add ink with a bit of transparency, mix it into the watercolor to just lighten certain areas, not repaint them white. In the shadows, we will not see pure white. And my zebras are done. Let me know what you think about this process. What are your feelings towards masking fluid? I'm going to put mine in a drawer for a while, I think. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one here on Tamirab Studios channel. Help other artists to see this video by liking or sharing it. To see future videos, subscribe and click the bell button to be notified when they're published. Thanks again and stay creative!